Hey guys, JamesMCD's Reviews here. Welcome to another episode of the Cinematic Bucket List series. I'm doing it outside because I figure it would fit theming, but today I'm going to be talking about Never Go Back, released in 2017, directed by Durden Godfrey. This movie centers around a father and a son who, after experiencing a tragedy in their family, decide to abandon society that they're at odds with and try to survive in the Florida wilderness. Now, originally this video was going to be a comparison of talking about the original cut of the movie versus the director's cut, but for the life of me, I could not find the original cut of this movie anywhere online, so I wasn't able to watch it, and I don't really have anything to compare it to. Fortunately, I did get in contact with Durden, and I asked him, and are there any major differences between the original and the director's, so you'll be hearing those a little bit later. So starting off, just general thoughts. I really liked the movie. I thought it was really good. It was definitely a tougher watch than I was expecting, just because of how sort of somber and melancholy it feels, and a lot of just the subject matter of it. I like how it's a little bit more slow. I like how you don't even see sort of the opening titles or opening credits for a good 20 minutes. It's all just setting up, introducing you to these characters and throwing you into their position and setting up the motivations for why they would want to never go back. I do kind of wonder how much of Oliver's philosophies and ideologies behind life and sort of the system and everything are genuinely his own that he believes in, or are he sort of gathered those because that's what his mother sort of instilled into him. Because it does show a lot of flashbacks to him as a child and the conversations he has with his mother and the conversation that the mom has with his dad, and the things that she says to him are very honest, but still it is kind of a very dour sort of outlook, especially to be instilling onto your child. And they even call her out for this at one point, where it's really, can you stop being such a fucking downer and let me live? But I feel like it's one of those things where, especially after her death at the beginning, it is kind of one of those things that sort of pushes Oliver over the edge to actually go out and do this. It kind of makes him, it puts in his head that this is something that he has to do. And I found that kind of interesting. The movie kind of reminds me a lot of Nomadland, not just in sort of its sort of subject matter of, two people sort of abandoning the comforts of life and living out in Nomadland it was on the road in a van, but in the case of this it's in the wilderness, but also just in sort of its views on society and the system and everything like that. Although I feel with Nomadland it was a lot more sort of pointed towards big corporations, whereas here it has sort of elements of that, especially in the ways that the characters talk just about life and everything. But this one has a very tooth and claw sort of edge to it that Nomadland really didn't have. Godfrey also cites Into the Wild as a big inspiration for this movie. I can't exactly speak to the influences of that because I haven't seen that movie or read that book, so I'll just have to take his word for it. I also like that when they go out into the wilderness, it is, rough. I mean, it's Florida, so what do you expect? But it's not nothing comes easy to them. You see in the beginning at one point, Oliver is, really freaking out and he feels like he's dying, and supplies are running low and he's doubting himself. But then, as the days go by, they learn to live in their new environment. And I also kind of like the sort of duality of how when they start off their journey, Oliver is really struggling, but his dad is kind of he's out doing a lot of the work, he's providing a lot of the food and sort of the necessities, as it were. But then by the time you get towards the end and you find out that Oliver's dad's health is declining and he's only got such and such time left to live, and you can see that deterioration start to kick in, and Oliver has to sort of take up the mantle a little bit. I really kind of liked that. They did a really good job building up the two characters. they have really great rapport off of each other. I will admit some of their lines can get very, like, I guess, matrixy when talking about, like, the philosophies and just the world and everything. And sometimes it feels natural, other times it feels like just reading from a Bible verse. But I mean, I chalk it up to that's just the world that the movie is set in, and these are the ways that the characters think and act, so I could take care of it all right. Also, a very small detail, but considering, like, Oliver's outlook on the world, I find it kind of funny that he has "Don't worry, be happy" tattooed on his chest, and I'm very curious to see, like, if that was a choice that the actor made for his character, or if he had already had that before going into this movie. Just briefly talking about some issues that I had, and they're not really, like, game breaking, they're just more like nitpicks than anything, and a lot of it you chalk up to this being independently funded. Some of the sound mixing and sound editing was kind of rough. Like, a lot of the sort of the Foley and, like, music was mixed a little too high, and a lot of the dialogue was, like, really hard to hear, and some of it sounded even kind of muffled. Like, I had to like press my headphones, like, further onto my head so that I could, like, hear clearer. So that was a little rough, but I could pick up most of what they were saying. Also, there were a few, like, editing choices that I found kind of odd. Like, some of it looked cool. There were a lot of cool, like, experimental, like, layered sequences, like, towards the beginning and the middle, and some of that stuff looked cool. But a lot of sort of, like, the split screen stuff where it was showing, like, multiple camera angles, like, it felt kind of like travel vloggy, which felt kind of weird, but that's a very small nitpick. The late Dr. Jones, who also did the music for Kill, did the music for this movie, and I really liked it. It captured the tone of the movie really well. It was very somber, it was very ethereal. And yeah, it was just really well done. And real quickly, talking about the differences between the original cut and the director's cut, this is what Durden had to say about that. The biggest difference is the director's cut includes an additional 20-ish minutes that follow Oliver after his father's death, and Oliver's story has a more definite conclusion. I regretted taking it out because that's where the movie really got into the philosophy of why they left and how it changed them. But a handful of people convinced me that it'd be better to just leave Oliver out there and let the audience decide how it went from there. Which I like the ambiguity of that version and the symmetry of how it begins with the mother's death and concludes with his father's death. But ultimately, there's something about the brutality of the director's cut that's more true to Into the Wild, which served as a big inspiration. Admittedly, I do think the ending was a bit of a downer, but, like, I do kind of agree with where he's coming from and how it is a lot more brutal and it is a lot more real, and it's, you know, living on the land is not this, like, you know, big fuck you to society that you think it is. It's like, once you get out there and you realize what you're getting yourself into, it becomes a lot more challenging, and it is a struggle for survival. And it kind of makes you sort of, like, take for granted sort of the common, like, luxuries that not a lot of people have. I would have been curious to see the movie, like, end with the father's death, and I'm curious to see, like, if that impact still would have been there, but I think the version that I watched is ultimately the better version in the long run. I thought this was a really good movie. Like I said, a few minor nitpicks here and there, but ultimately, Durden, I think he knocked it out of the park with this one. And going to my ranking, I would have to give Never Go Back a 4 out of 5. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, this film was independently funded. If you're a supporter of independent and local filmmakers, then I would highly recommend checking out Far From the Tree. This is the newest film written and directed by Godfrey, starring his TTFT partner in crime, Tarian Royal, and his daughter, Jayla. Morgan just turned 18, and she's about to break her father's heart. The film is officially complete. I actually got to see an early draft of it a little while ago, so thank you for that. And right now they're just looking for funding to shop it around to film festivals and show it to investors and things like that. So if you're at all interested in learning more information about this film, or even sponsoring it or supporting it, I've left a link to the film's link tree in the description. Go check it out if you want. This isn't a sponsor or anything, they're not asking me to do this. I just really appreciate all of the support that they have shown to me over the past few years. so it only feels right that I offer the same amount of support. So anyone in my audience who is interested in supporting their film, go check out the link in the description and tell them that I sent you. But anyway, that does it for this outdoors edition of the Cinematic Bucket List. Let me know in the comments if you've seen Never Go Back. If you're interested, the director's cut is on YouTube right now. I'll leave a link to it down in the description. Go watch it and let me know what you think of it. Look forward to more videos coming soon, but until then, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell so you can stay up to date when I'm posting. Follow me on all my social media, subscribe to my main channel. Everything you need to know will be in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you later.